What is the best fat loss diet? That's what we're talking about today. If you don't know who I am, my name's Eddie Rosell. I lost over 125 pounds and have kept that off for over 20 years now. And I share my experience and my ups and downs and everything that I've learned throughout the last 20 plus years to help you most effectively get to your weight loss goals, get to your health goals, build muscle, everything that means you being healthier. So today I want to talk about 5 different diets and how it relates to fat loss, and eventually stay till the end where I'll reveal to you what I think is the best fat loss diet. So we're gonna talk about the ketogenic diet, we're gonna talk about the paleo diet, the carnivore diet, the Mediterranean diet, and then the vegan diet. So we'll get into all of those and explain each one in detail and my experience, because I've actually tried pretty much all of these. So you're gonna hear it from someone who's actually tried these and lived through it and can tell you exactly the pluses and the minuses. And overall, did I lose weight on them? Did I gain weight? What was the end result? Because that's really what matters. Let's get into the first one. So the first one is the ketogenic diet. So very, very popular diet, described as a high fat, moderate protein, very low carbohydrate diet designed to put the body into a state of ketosis, where it burns fat for fuel instead of carbohydrates. Typically, it involves around 70 to 80% of calories from fat, only about 15 to 25% from protein, and about 5 to 10% from carbs. So you're usually talking about less than 50 grams of carbs daily. And it's used for weight loss, it's used for blood sugar control, maybe type 2 diabetics can get good use out of this. And sometimes it has even some neurological benefits for people who suffer from epilepsies and so forth. So I tried the ketogenic diet back in 2000, probably 2015 or 2016, so a long time ago. It's right when the ketogenic diet was getting a little more popular. It's very popular in the last few years, but the ketogenic diet's been around for a very long time. They've done studies on using the ketogenic diet with Navy SEALs and whether it helps them stay underwater longer and helps them with decision-making when they're deep in the water. So there's been a lot of different studies on ketogenic diets. They've known that it helps with epilepsy sometimes and with different neurological conditions, but it had never really become popular as a way to lose fat. Probably until the Atkins diet. Everyone remembers the Atkins diet when it was probably like the late 90s or early 2000s. And essentially it was a very high fat, very low carbohydrate diet. Now, my experience with the ketogenic diet, it was a lot of fat. It was eating avocados, a lot of olive oil, which I love. It was very little carbs. And so in the beginning, people will lose weight on the ketogenic diet or any low carbohydrate diet if you're low enough on the carbohydrate side. The reason why is because for every gram of carb that you take into the body is going to draw in an extra 1 or 2 grams of water, up to 3 grams of water. So you're naturally getting more water weight in with every gram of carbohydrate that you eat. And so that's not bad. That's actually good. It's usually going into the muscle belly. Water is good for you. You want to stay hydrated. I always talk about the importance of staying hydrated for mental capacity, for just being overall healthier. Your cell at the cellular level will work better when it's properly hydrated. And so my experience in the ketogenic diet was, and you're going to hear me say this a lot today, but it's just another tool in the tool set. Or right, you think about a toolkit where you have all these different, like you've got your screwdriver, you've got your hammer, you've got your drill, you've got your wrench, and for different types of jobs, you might need a different tool. Well, the ketogenic diet is just one of those tools, right? It's like the screwdriver, and it helps certain people that need to get blood sugar under control because you're lowering carbohydrate intake, so naturally your blood sugar control is gonna improve. The problem, I think, with the ketogenic diet is you could gain weight and you can gain fat on the ketogenic diet, because throughout this whole video on 5 different diets that we're going to touch on, the most important thing to remember through all of these diets is that if you are not in a calorie deficit, you will not lose weight. Therefore, you will not lose fat. Now, there's a big difference between your body running on fat and using fat for fuel and your body actually losing body fat. There's a big difference, and I think that it is a very, very important distinction to make, because a lot of times people think, well, I'm using more fat for fuel because I'm on the ketogenic diet, so obviously my body is gonna lose more fat because I'm using more fat as fuel. I don't have any carbohydrates for my body to use, so I'm gonna lose fat. That's not exactly true. Your body will use the fuel it has available to do the functions that it needs to do, whether it's thinking, processing, metabolic functions, your resting metabolic rate, keeping you alive, your breathing, but then also all of the exercise and the walking around and everything else that you do throughout your day. Just because you're using more of the fat as fuel to run that stuff doesn't mean that you're overall gonna be in a deficit. If you use fat all day to do all of your activities, guess what? Your diet, the ketogenic diet, is giving you more fat. Your dietary intake is all fat pretty much. It's about, I think it's 70 to 80% calories from fat, right? So you're intaking more fat, therefore you're gonna use more fat as fuel. But just because you're using fat as fuel all day, it doesn't mean that you're overall in a negative balance energy-wise. So hopefully that makes sense. You have how much energy you need to maintain your weight. No matter whether it comes from fat or from carbs, it's still this same level. And if it's coming from fat or carbs, it doesn't matter. Now, if you don't have enough fat in your diet, then you will be under that and you'll be in a calorie deficit and you will lose weight. But you could have easily done that by having carbohydrates and low fat. It doesn't matter whether the energy is coming from fat or from carbohydrates. It doesn't matter which fuel, predominantly carbs or predominantly fat, your body is using. What matters is, at the end of the day, the total amount of fuel that it has. And if you are expending enough energy where you don't have enough fuel for that energy, then you dip into a deficit, and that's where your body starts to use the extra calories as energy and you lose weight. So hopefully that makes a little sense. I did the ketogenic diet and I lost some quick weight because, again, most of the weight that people lose in the beginning is all water weight. And you'll notice if you go on a 2-week ketogenic diet, you might lose 5-10 pounds. And you're like, oh my God, this is amazing. But what you don't realize is that the minute that you start eating carbohydrates, you're gonna gain that weight back, and it's all water weight. When you first started the diet, you're gonna notice that you're gonna be peeing a lot of that extra water and salt out. That's why people need to drink electrolytes when they're on the ketogenic diet, or they get what they call the keto flu, which is they don't feel good. They almost get like flu-like symptoms, because when you're peeing all of that water out, because your body is not holding on to the water because you're eliminating all the carbohydrates, so your body is peeing all that water out. You're also getting rid of all of your electrolytes, your salt, your potassium, your magnesium. And so you get low on those and you don't feel so great. So what happens is you do lose 5-10 pounds. Depending on the size of the person, you can lose a significant amount of weight in the beginning. But the minute you start eating carbohydrates again, your body's gonna suck in that water with the carbohydrates. And again, not a bad thing because it's just water, but your scale weight will go up to reflect that. And you'll realize that all along in the beginning, you didn't lose fat, you just lost water weight. So I think it's a very clear distinction that needs to be made. Just because you're using fat for fuel, it doesn't mean that you're actually losing body fat off of your body. You have to be in a calorie deficit. You have to be using up more energy than you provided your body for your body to actually go into the fat deposits and actually lose fat off of your body. My experience was I did keto and I ate too many calories at times and I gained fat. And there was times in the beginning where I didn't eat that many calories because fat is a little filling, right? It's more filling than carbohydrates. So I lost a little weight in the beginning. Some of that was water weight. Overall, it wasn't for me. Overall, I like to have bread. I like to have, different, pasta every now and then. I love Italian food. Italian food is my favorite kind of food. I'm not saying that this doesn't work. What I'm saying is it's a tool in the toolkit and you can use it however it is that you decide you want to use it, but it's not necessary for fat loss. And if you like carbohydrates, you don't have to do a ketogenic diet. So at the end of the day, it's personal preference. Regardless, you don't need it to lose fat. Let's get into the second diet. Second diet is the paleo diet, a diet inspired by the eating habits of Paleolithic humans, so really old people, focused on whole, unprocessed foods like meat, fish, eggs, vegetables, fruits, nuts, and seeds. It excludes grains, legumes, dairy, refined sugars, and processed foods, emphasizing a quote-unquote hunter-gatherer approach to eating for better health and digestion. So the paleo is similar to keto, just not as strict in its, but it does have its restrictions in its own way. Obviously, it excludes grains, legumes, dairy, things like that. So again, I tried this. There was restriction involved. I like having some beans every now and then because they're healthy. They have fiber. They have a little bit of protein. I like having some of these foods. I have a high protein yogurt every day. That's dairy, right? I like having a little bit of milk with my coffee in the morning. That's dairy. So paleo didn't work for me. I didn't necessarily lose any weight on it. What I will say that's great about paleo though is that it gets people to eat unprocessed foods. You'll notice that in the definition of this, it said focusing on whole unprocessed foods like fish, meat, eggs, and vegetables, fruits, nuts, and seeds. That is good. You're gonna be focused on foods that are whole foods. Those foods are gonna help you to eliminate all of the noise that the processed food creates. When you eat a lot of ultra processed foods, things that come in bags and boxes, you're gonna notice that you're not gonna know when you're hungry or when you're full because, well, you'll know when you're hungry because you're always gonna feel hungry because that's what ultra processed food does. It kind of blocks that signal that your stomach sends to your brain that says, hey, we're good, we're full, we don't need to keep eating. And so it kind of blocks that because it's hitting your dopamine center in your brain so hard, that reward center, that you're like, oh my God, I need more. So everyone knows picking up a bag of chips or a bag of cookies or whatever it is, and you just eat and you're like, all of a sudden you're like, I can't stop eating. I'm not even hungry, but I just keep eating. That's because that ultra processed food is blocking those hunger signals and those fullness signals. Whereas when you go onto a paleo diet, you're gonna resensitize your body to recognize those fullness signals. So that is a really, really big plus about paleo. Again, the negative is it's still a little bit restrictive. If you like dairy, if you like legumes, if you like some of those other things, grains, things like that, then you're not gonna be able to have that stuff. Again, not necessary for fat loss. It's just a personal preference, and it's, again, another tool. Remember, you got the wrench, you got the screwdriver, you got the hammer, just another tool in the toolkit, an idea. You can do it temporarily and then get off of it to kind of resensitize yourself to eating whole foods, which I think is a really good idea. And I think most people can benefit from just going through a period where they eat only whole foods to kind of get used to those hunger signals and those fullness signals again. Let's get into the third one. The third one is the carnivore diet. The carnivore diet is an all meat and sometimes animal product diet that eliminates all plant-based foods. So no vegetables, no fruits. It consists primarily of beef, pork, poultry, fish, eggs, and sometimes dairy, with 0 carbs from fruits, vegetables, or grains. The advocates, people that love this diet, they claim it simplifies nutrition and reduces inflammation, though it's controversial and lacks long-term research. I did the carnivore diet after the keto diet. I love learning, I love reading, going in, listening to podcasts and stuff, and eventually you come across all of these different protocols. I came across the carnivore diet shortly after the keto diet, so maybe around like 2018 or so, I did the carnivore diet. I did it for 6 months where I only ate ribeye steaks or ground beef and eggs. That's all I ate every single day. And electrolytes, salt and pepper, basically. And then black coffee and water. I liked the way that I felt when I did the carnivore diet. I felt like my stomach felt really flat. It did eliminate any kind of inflammation, if any, that I had. I felt great. I never lacked any kind of energy. So my experience with the carnivore diet was actually really positive. What I will say is you have to kind of watch your calories because you're eating fatty steaks and you're eating eggs and stuff like that. And so that stuff it's high calorie, but at the same time, because that's the only thing you're eating, I would have a ribeye steak for lunch and I would have a ribeye steak for dinner. And then sometimes I would have a pound of ground beef with eggs for lunch or dinner. That was basically my diet. So those are the pluses. Like I did feel like it eliminated inflammation. I'm someone that can get a little bloated when it comes to certain vegetables and fruit. And so from that perspective, I liked it. I thought it was great. I was a little bit concerned about long-term health. I did blood work while I was on the carnivore diet, and my blood work was fine. There wasn't anything wrong. My LDL was a little bit elevated, my cholesterol, but it wasn't to a point where it was completely unhealthy. It's at a healthier place now that I eat a very flexible and balanced diet, but LDL was a little bit elevated. Other than that, all of my markers were good. The bad thing about the carnivore diet is that at the end of the day, it gets kind of boring. Like, I missed having a salad, a big salad with, olive oil and other stuff. I missed having avocado. I missed having, bread and olive oil. I told you that I love Italian food. I couldn't have any bread and olive oil, things like that. So for me, although it made me feel good, it wasn't worth it from a long-term perspective to continue to do a carnivore diet because I felt deprived of salads and fruits and vegetables. I like bananas, I like apples. I liked having a big salad, like I said. So for me, it didn't work long-term, but while I did it, I felt great. Did I lose any weight? Not really. I kind of maintained my weight. Again, reduced a little bit of inflammation, but I maintained my weight. My weight didn't really fluctuate. Again, I wasn't really tracking calories, so I wasn't trying to lose weight. I was just naturally going based on my hunger signals. I didn't gain weight and I didn't lose weight. I just felt kind of overall lean and good and healthy and with less inflammation. But overall, again, it's a tool in the toolkit. I know that there are people who have a lot of autoimmune issues and inflammation issues, and they're not sure where it comes from, maybe from the food supply. And they when they do a carnivore diet, all of that stuff goes away. They have, their skin clears up, they have rashes that go away, their autoimmune issues all go away, and their skin is clearer, eczema, psoriasis, things like that clear up. I've heard of people who have that. If you're familiar with Jordan Peterson, his daughter, Michaela Peterson, is a big advocate of the carnivore diet because for her, poor thing can't eat anything else. Every time she eats other stuff, she felt absolutely miserable. So the carnivore diet has a lot of benefits for people who do have a lot of autoimmune diseases or issues, and they react very, very strongly to certain foods. And so it's essentially an elimination diet. All you're doing is eating meat and dairy, or meat and eggs, basically. So it's tough to stick to long term, and I would recommend speaking to your doctor if this is something you want to try, because you want to make sure you keep an eye on blood work, because long term we don't know what your blood work is going to do, and I do think that everyone is a little different. Getting into the next one, number 4 is the Mediterranean diet. We've all heard of this. This has been around for years. Mediterranean diet is a heart-healthy diet inspired by traditional eating patterns of Mediterranean countries, emphasizing plant-based foods like vegetables, fruits, whole grains, legumes, nuts, and olive oil. A lot of olive oil. We love that. It includes moderate fish and poultry, limited red meat, and small amounts of dairy and wine. It's praised for longevity and reducing chronic disease risk. I kind of eat a Mediterranean diet now. I love olive oil. I love eating a lot of these different foods. I don't eat a ton of red meat. I probably eat red meat once, maybe twice a week at the most. I eat a lot more chicken and fish. I love having vegetables. I love olive oil. And I have a little bit of dairy. I have a little milk with my coffee in the morning, and then I have at least 1 or 2 yogurts that are higher in protein, because it helps me hit my protein target. The Mediterranean diet is great. Again, a tool in the toolkit. This is a more balanced diet, which is what I like about the Mediterranean diet. You're not really saying you can't have this, you can't have that. You're just having a little bit of everything in moderation, and you're even having a little wine and enjoying wine in moderation as well. Now, we know today in 2025 that there are no benefits to drinking alcohol. So they used to tell us, studies show that a glass of wine is gonna help you and that it's got resveratrol and that it's got antioxidants in it. That's bullshit. No amount of alcohol is gonna make you healthier. Now, that's not to say that in a social setting, having a glass of wine with your wife or with friends doesn't overall increase your enjoyment of life because you're hanging out with family or friends and you're having a glass of wine. That might, from a social perspective, add to your value in life and add to your experience of life. And so there's a big difference there versus saying alcohol is beneficial or not beneficial. Alcohol has no benefit from a health perspective, but it may help you in terms of a societal perspective, in terms of you and your family and everyone getting together and having a glass of wine and sharing time together. That overall might make you feel better. But I will tell you, alcohol ruins sleep. I have an Oura ring here that has taught me that ever since 2018 when I started wearing this thing. I can tell you it ruins sleep. You won't get as much deep sleep. You won't get as much restorative sleep. You're gonna wake up more tired and you're gonna have less recovery and you're not gonna be as good for your workouts the next day. You're also not gonna be as verbally fluent or able to kind of think as quickly on your feet, all because it affected your sleep. And it has no benefits other than maybe from a societal perspective, hanging out, and from a social interaction perspective. But Mediterranean diet's a great option. I highly recommend anyone who wants a more balanced diet, focus on whole, unprocessed foods, and it's great. I've done that for years. Give or take is kind of what I eat as a Mediterranean diet. And when I want to lose weight, I lower my calories and I lose weight. And when I want to gain a little weight, or I want to kind of go into a reverse diet or build some muscle and have a little bit of extra calories, then I up it a little bit. But regardless, another tool in the toolkit is just more of a flexible way of eating. It's not going to be some kind of secret or magic bullet to lose fat. At the end of the day, what matters is the calories that you're having. You have to have less calories that you're expending so that you can actually be in a deficit and lose some weight. The last one that we're going to talk about is the vegan diet. Now, the vegan diet is a fully plant-based diet that excludes all animal products. So you can't have, this is meat, dairy, eggs, even honey. It relies on fruits, vegetables, grains, legumes, nuts, and seeds to meet nutritional needs, often adopted for ethical, environmental, or health reasons. It requires careful planning to avoid deficiencies like B12 and iron. The vegan diet is one that I will tell you very flat out, I do not recommend it. It is not the healthiest way to eat for most humans. That's not to say that some don't thrive on it. That's not to say that some don't build muscle on it. You can go on YouTube or you can go on any other platform and look up vegans that build muscle, vegan bodybuilders. You'll find an example of everything. You'll find outliers in everything you search for in life. However, because you're naturally not getting enough B12, you're naturally not getting enough iron because you're not eating any meat, those are things that you then have to supplement with. And so what I recommend, if you're doing a vegan diet, first of all, you need to make sure that you carefully do your blood work and see if there are any deficiencies that you have in B12 and in iron. Specifically women, if you're on your period and you get your period every month, you're gonna be even more susceptible to being low iron, anemic, and then that's gonna affect your energy levels. Now, I tried the vegan diet for like a week and a half. And guys, I gotta tell you, not for me. I felt absolutely bloated and gassy the whole time. Sorry, too much information, but that is what it is. I did not like it at all. Too many vegetables, too much bloating, too much inflammation for me. And I just feel so much better when I have fish, chicken, meat, a little bit, all in moderation. I did not lose weight. I can tell you that I have worked with clients that are both vegan and vegetarian, and it is a lot harder for them to hit their protein targets. Therefore, they're gonna end up eating more calories from carbohydrates. If you've ever been to a vegetarian or a vegan restaurant, you will notice that they take a lot of different foods that are plants and they try to add as much as they can and manipulate it as much as possible to try to make that food taste, feel, look like meat or chicken or something else. There's a reason why. It's because we're meant to eat those foods. We're meant to eat meat and chicken and fish all in moderation. Now, look, if you're doing it for ethical reasons, I absolutely understand that. You know, I have a client that does it for ethical reasons where she doesn't eat meat, and I absolutely understand that. I can be empathetic and sympathize with someone, you know, that grew up, you know, near a butcher or a slaughtering house and doesn't want to think about that stuff. And growing up next to that, if I grew up next to a slaughterhouse, maybe I wouldn't eat meat. So who am I to judge, right? And I think that there's ways to make it healthy as long as you keep a really close eye on B12, iron, and any other potential deficiencies that may creep up. So that's the vegan diet. I don't recommend it, but if you are going to do it, make sure that you keep an eye on your levels. And again, a tool in the toolkit. Don't think that you're gonna get on a vegetarian or vegan diet and all of a sudden magically lose weight or lose fat. Most of the time, the big downside of a vegetarian or vegan diet is that a lot of the stuff is ultra processed. When you go to the supermarket, unless you're going and getting actual whole vegetables and fruits and nuts and stuff, most of the stuff is gonna be high in carbohydrates because you can't have any of the protein. So you're having things like a lot of rice, a lot of hemp, a lot of, soybeans and things like that, like tempeh. You're getting so many different things and a lot of that stuff is processed, right? Unless, again, it's a whole vegetable or fruit, it's processed. So there you have it, guys. All 5 diets. At the end of the day, I told you that I would reveal to you what I thought was the best diet for fat loss. And the best diet for fat loss is, and I want you to pay attention to this very closely, the best diet for fat loss is the one that you can stick to. The best diet for fat loss is the one that's going to allow you to be in a calorie deficit, that deficit that we talked about earlier. Whichever diet is going to allow you to feel full, content, happy, not hangry, and continue to have a deficit, that's the one that you should stick to. You also have to consider society and the social impacts, right? Like if you're married and your wife is not going to be, or your husband is not going to be eating the same kind of foods, and you're coming to dinner and then all of a sudden you're super restricted on what you can and can't eat, those are things that you have to consider. If you live a social life and you do a lot of happy hours, or you go and entertain clients a lot because you're in some kind of a role where you have to do a lot of that stuff, it's going to be very difficult for you to stick to that. So remember, stick to the diet that's most realistic for you in your life, and the one that's going to allow you to stay in a calorie deficit the longest possible so that you can get the benefits of fat loss. No matter what diet you choose, the best diet is the one that you can stick with consistently. The 2 most important things in fat loss: adherence, picking the right path, picking the right plan, the diet, and then consistency, doing it consistently. You can lose weight on all 5 of these diets. I can guarantee you that if you're in a calorie deficit, no matter which of these you do, or any others that I didn't mention, you will lose weight. However, that doesn't mean that that's the right one for you. You have to pick and choose which one is the right one for you that's going to allow you to stay in that deficit as long as possible, or however long you're going to be dieting until you get to your fat loss goal. So hopefully that was helpful. If you like this video, please like, please share, please subscribe. I'm trying to get to about 1,000 subscribers this year. And so it'd be incredibly meaningful for you to subscribe. If you're still here and you're still watching, thank you so much from the bottom of my heart. I really appreciate all of you that are here listening. Share this with someone that can benefit from it, that needs to hear this information, that is confused. There's a lot of noise in the industry about what's right and what's wrong, and so many different diets out there. So please share this with someone that needs some really good science-backed, evidence-backed advice from someone who's actually tried these diets, and someone who's actually lost over 100 pounds and can tell you, hey, this worked, this didn't work, right? So take the information, learn as much as you can from it, and a bunch of links down there in the description about ways to connect with me, whether it's through my weekly newsletter, my course that's about to launch. I'll put the link down there, as well as limited one-on-one coaching, because I only take limited clients every month, but limited one-on-one coaching if that's something that you're interested in. Thanks so much, and I'll see you next week.